So what kind of edible plants can be found in the northeastern US in the middle of May? Well, there's a lot going on right now, and I'm going to show you a couple different types today. I think a lot of us, and myself included, I used to walk around and walk by everyday plants that we see and not fully understand their nutritional qualities and the purpose that they serve. So when I talk to you about a couple different plants today, I hope that you learn a little something and you can discover the benefits of all of these natural things we have growing around us. Welcome to True Freedom Permaculture, where I give you all of the tips and tricks you need to have a green thumb, even if you weren't born with one. First up is something that most people have in their yards, and they usually just walk past them or try to actually get rid of them without thinking twice. So it's the common dandelion, and it gets its name from some old French words, dandelion, and that means lion's tooth. And you can see why, because these leaves are sharply toothed here, and it's a really good way of identifying them before the flowers come up, because otherwise they're easily identifiable by these yellow flowers that we're all used to in our yards. So another way to identify dandelion is if you pick a leaf and you break it open, it will secrete a milky white substance. So hopefully you can kind of see that there. It's closer towards where the stem is on here. So that's another way that you can tell if it's a dandelion or not. One of the amazing properties about the dandelion plant is that the root, the leaves, and the flowers are all edible. The root can actually be ground up and made as a coffee substitute. It has a similar quality to coffee. The leaves, these are best eaten in the early spring, prior to this stage, before seeing the flowers come up, because as the flowers come up, the leaves tend to taste a little bit more bitter. They do have a natural bitter quality anyway, and they're really good for your liver and your gallbladder, but you can throw them into soups, and maybe I find that I put some in a smoothie and they are so bitter, so maybe only a couple leaves into a smoothie at a time. I wouldn't chalk like a few handfuls into it or anything. But yeah, they're wonderful for stir fries, anything like that. And the flowers, we're in sort of the mid to later spring here, so it was hard actually finding one that had flowers still. A lot of them are going to seed. But this one has a tiny flower that looks like it's about to open. And these, there's different things that you can do with them. I've seen them put into vinegars or used in baking. But my personal favorite way to use them is something that I learned this year, which is fried dandelions. And you lightly batter them and fry them up, and they're really delicious. I don't know this for sure, but I heard it was an Appalachian recipe where that comes from. So really nice that you can make use of the whole plant. Now you'll know never to look at dandelions as pesky weeds ever again. The second wild edible we're going to go over today is garlic mustard. And garlic mustard is really plentiful this time of year. There's a couple different ways that you can identify it. One is that it's pretty tall. I would say this plant is maybe like 2.5 to 3 feet tall, and it's characterized by these long, upright main stems here. And it also has some very long leaf stalks too. Finally, you can tell because it has these dark green, deeply veined, heart-shaped leaves. When you take a leaf, crush it, and give it a smell. If it smells like a faint smell of garlic, it's not going to be quite as pungent as regular garlic. Then if it has a mild garlic smell, you know you have garlic mustard. Used raw in salads, steamed or sautéed, these leaves add a garlicky flavor to any dish. I would maybe skip the smoothie. One way I like to use garlic mustard is I like to let it grow next to existing plants where I want to keep them away from pests. Because of that faint garlicky smell that the plant gives off, this is it here, and because of the faint garlicky smell that it gives off, it might deter unwanted pests from eating the surrounding plants. And I found that to be the case in past years. This is with the white flowers. You'll see the blackberry bush that I have here, and I also have a start of a tomato over here. But I let this one just kind of do its thing, and I do notice that things are much less likely to eat the surrounding plants. Another plant that has heart-shaped leaves is the last edible, wild edible plant that we're going to talk about today, and that is the violet. As you can see here, this violet is past the point of flowering. It's kind of late spring, so the plant's already flowered, but you can see that it does still have these heart-shaped leaves. And these are also dark green, similar to garlic mustard. You can tell that the edges of the leaf, though, have these very shallow teeth to them, but they are deeply veined. When you're first starting to adjust your palate to the flavor of foraged foods, I think that violets are a great place to start because they have a really mild flavor. I kind of compare it to spinach in a way. So, sometimes these, like the dandelion, for example, has like a really bitter taste to it, but these are super mild. They actually have a thickening effect, so they're great to throw into stews. And you could even take the violet flowers and put them into ice cubes if you want to fancy up your drink a little bit. I've even seen the petals of the flowers put into syrups, and also in vinegars, and they give it this beautiful violet blue hue. Violets are extremely high in vitamin C, and violet leaf tea is used for lung congestions. And you can make a poultice out of the leaves for soothing any kind of skin irritation or rash. Opening your world to edible plants which grow in the wild is exciting. It's fun to learn about something new and just to know that you have a multitude of food sources that are growing right around you every day. Something else that I really like about foraging is that you don't have to have a garden plot to grow them. Anyone can grow them. I say grow, but take a walk or a hike and just pluck a couple things that you know about, and you have something that you can eat. Something else that doesn't require a lot of garden space is growing microgreens. All you really need is a small container. If that interests you, join me over in the next video that's coming up here. Click on it, and I will see you over there, and I will show you step by step exactly how to grow your very own radish microgreens. See you soon.